Have you been told to build your core strength, or maybe core stability, or maybe both? Do you understand the difference between the two? Do you understand the exercises that are required to build each one? Because so many people that I speak to have been told they need to build core strength, but when they come to me, what they really need is core stability, and vice versa. So it's very important to understand what type of training that you need to be doing to either overcome that injury or build that fitness, because so many people are out there getting them mixed up and training in the wrong way. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the differences between core strength and core stability. Then we're going to look at some simple ways of identifying which one you need, because again, this is something that I take people through when they come and see me one-to-one. It's also a part of the online 12-week program, which is a beginner's core program to build core strength and stability. Now, strength is the maximum force produced by a muscle or group of muscles. So that's your ability to hold a posture. Now, if you want to add endurance in there, it's the ability to hold that posture over time and resist fatigue. Then when we bring stability into it, it's the ability of muscles or group of muscles to coordinate and create smooth movement. So you can start to see there is a difference between the two here. So when people come to see me, they come and see me and they say, I need to build my core strength. But when I get them to do some core strength assessments, they're adequate. They've got more than enough. But when we get them to do core stability, they're all over the place. So what they really need is core stability. And the opposite can happen. People come to me, I need to build my core stability. Okay, well, let's look at it. That looks fine. But when we get them into sort of core strength, core endurance postures and positions, they fall all over the place. So we have to identify what it is that we need. So what we're going to look at next are 4 simple tests and assessments that you can do to identify which one you need and what part of the body you need it for. The first assessment I take people through for core strength is the humble and very simple plank, because what we're doing is we're holding that position. So that's exactly what we're looking for: the ability to hold the position, the ability to brace the abdominals, the ability for muscle co-contraction, and we're looking at the anterior musculature of the torso. So all we do is we get them into a position and we hold the plank. Now, if someone's been told that they need to build their core strength and they can hold a plank for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, for most people, that's adequate. You're not really going to need much more than that. So I get them into the position and they hold it. What we then do, write that down, move on to the next test. So what we've got is a very simple plank, the ability to hold the position, so the head's in line, the shoulder and the hips in line. You could see I could go down a little bit because what we've got here is that position there. So I could be down a little bit, get the shoulders in line. So that's essentially the position that I'm looking to hold. So I hold that position, write down the time that I can do, and then I can move on. If it was 10 seconds, 15 seconds, then we might have some core strength to build. But if I'm holding 1 minute, 2 minutes, even 3 minutes, that's absolutely fine. The second exercise is the side plank. Again, it's another exercise where I'm holding a position. So I'm holding a position, I'm bracing the abdominals, I've got muscle co-contraction because the abdominals are working as well, but this time it's more so focused on the lateral musculature. So all the way down the side of the core here. So again, the position I'm holding, shoulders and hips are stacked. If I was having my feet on top of each other, my knees and my feet would be stacked as well, but I've got one foot in front of the other here. But essentially, I'm holding that position. What I would then do, again, set the timer, hold it for as long as possible. One thing I will say is notice which is the limiting factor. So the side plank, it could be the shoulder, it could be the back, or it could be the musculature. We want it to be the lateral musculature that fails. We want the shoulder to be strong enough, and we want the back to be protected enough. Obviously, if it's the back, if it's the shoulder, then we've got other things to work on. But if it's the lateral musculature, and we're holding it for, again, sort of 45 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, that's absolutely adequate. I see no reason why we need to extend that on further. If it's the shoulder, obviously we need to work on building the strength of the shoulder to then be able to see what we can do with the lateral musculature. There are exercises that can be done to build that without the shoulder, but what we need is a piece of equipment to do that. If it's the back, the limiting factor, we need to go in a different direction, and we need to protect the back to be able to sort of build up that core strength. But again, if we're looking at sort of 5, 10, 15 seconds, we may have a slight problem that we need to build that core strength. But when most people come to me, that will be adequate. They will be able to hold that for 45 seconds, a minute. If it's sort of lower than that, if it's sort of 30 seconds would be the bottom end. But if we're there or thereabouts, we don't really need to be doing too much of a focus on it. Core stability is different. As you can see, it's now about muscle timing, balance, smoothness of movement, and the minimizing of compensation. So the test that I do is a very simple one. I get them into a hand plank and I get them to touch their shoulder. There are 3 things that I'm looking for. Well, there's one thing that I'm looking for that I want from them, which is maintaining centered hips. And then there are 3 things that, if it's inadequate, that I look for. So is there a weight shift either to the right or to the left? Do the hips roll from one side, so either the right or the left? And do they stay sort of in the position that they start in? Or do they sort of go up higher or go down lower? If they've got compensations there, that's the muscles not timing properly, which is going to affect the balance, affect the smoothness of movement, and is showing a compensation. This is where most people fall down, in the core stability type assessments. Some are fine, but most will be affected here, and they will have some sort of compensation that we need to manage. So they can hold a good side plank and a good plank. When it comes to the hand plank and lifting the hand up, then it becomes a problem. If, for whatever reason, someone can't lift the hand off because they think they're going to collapse, then again, it's still much of a problem. So this is very simple for understanding what type of stability that needs to be built. Because what you might find is that through other things that you do or other things that people do, you see that everything is shifting to the right or rotating to the right, or the right's dropping and the left is staying up, or vice versa. So it can be many different things, but it's about looking at these 4 tests and trying to understand what are the common patterns and where are they, in some respects, sort of strong, and where are they weak. The final one is just a single leg bridge. So again, we're looking at muscle timing, how well are they balanced, how smooth is the movement, and trying to minimize compensation. So what we'll do is we'll set them up in a plank, and what I should say as well, this is more the posterior musculature, whereas obviously the one before is sort of the anterior lateral musculature. So this is posterior and lateral musculature. Now, what's happening is we're trying to maintain, just like before, the centered hips. But what can happen is hips can drop, which is probably the most common one. Again, hips can go side to side as the legs picked up, or the hips can roll from side to side. One can stay high, one can go low. So all these things we're trying to pick up on, because if they're dropping down, if they're going weight shifting, if they're rotating, again, we've got that compensation there that needs to be managed. And then what this basically informs is how to then train. Because if someone comes to me, they've got adequate core strength and endurance,